All right, and we are live. Well, welcome everybody. I am Objectively Dan. Most of you know me from the Epistemic podcast that I host with Anthony Magdabosco on the Street Epistemology channel. And this is my personal YouTube channel. This is a place where I want to kind of upload some of my own projects, some of my own stuff that I've been working on, help highlight people in the community like we're doing today. And just kind of, more fun stuff like that. You can find me on Twitter at Objectively Dan if you're not following me there already. And you can also find me in the Street Epistemology groups on Facebook, the study group, and the Young Street Epistemology group as well. Today, we are going to be talking to Charlee Vance. Charlee is a sophomore at UT Arlington, and she is the president of the Mavericks Secular Society. I think I got that right.
Yep.
And she hasn't been president for that long. She just started this past semester, but she basically resurrected this group that was basically dead, right? I mean, you said that most of them had already graduated and there wasn't any secular groups on campus anymore, right?
Right, yeah. Whenever I started at UTA last semester, one thing that really stuck out to me was that there was at least half a dozen variations of religious groups, but none for any sort of even like secular or agnostic or anything like that.
Yeah, and we'll talk about how you kind of got started with that in a sec, but first let's kind of talk about you and your history a bit. Kind of tell us maybe where you're from and your involvement in the skeptic community and what that's been like.
Right, so I'm from Wichita Falls, Texas. It's a couple hours away from here. Yeah, I became an atheist when I was about 17 years old. I just started really having some big questions, like, what is the point of life? What are we supposed to be doing? What is the purpose?
Mm-hmm.
And I just found some really solid, answers, I would say, in science. I just really developed a passion and appreciation for science. So that kind of just steered me into atheism and to... Well, I was never really a big Christian to begin with, but after reading some things by Richard Dawkins, I really agree with a lot of things that he says, and that it's dangerous and that it's really undermining to science to indoctrinate people and to, just think that these fairy tales are okay and give them these platforms that they have. So, yeah, just becoming an atheist activist was something that was always important to me once I kind of came into atheism. And so whenever I came to DFW to come to UTA, it was really important for me to reach out and to do what I could to be an activist for atheism.
So by the time you were in high school, you kind of considered yourself an atheist, right?
I would say about my senior year. To be honest, at the beginning of high school, I wouldn't necessarily say I was a devout Christian, but I'm sure I believed in God. I remember about my sophomore year, there was a boy in our class that said he was an atheist, and I just looked at him like that was so bizarre. I didn't really understand, and I thought, how can he be an atheist? He's just somebody my age in my class. Like I had, these ideas and these pictures in my head that he didn't really live up to. And so, yeah, by the time my senior year came around, I was definitely identifying as an atheist myself.
Okay, right. The reason why I want to bring up timeframes is because you're from Wichita Falls.
Yes.
And for those of you who aren't familiar with Texas geography, there's this kind of stereotype of big towns with small town values. Like Wichita Falls is like 100% that. I've driven through there. It's a very beautiful area, but it's also very conservative. And I imagine there's not a lot of other people who think like you do, right?
No, I mean, you hit the nail right on the head. It's a bigger town with very small town values, very conservative. The school that I went to specifically, very, very conservative. In fact, in my high school AP biology class, our teacher specifically told us evolution is crap. I mean, those were her words exactly. And there was nothing done about it. I know that there was complaints, and it was fine as far as the school board was concerned. And so, just stuff like that really is a testament to what you said. It's conservative small town values.
Oh yeah, I've been there, done that. It's crazy to think of how few resources sometimes people have in these areas, which I guess kind of inspired you to do something about it whenever you moved to UT Arlington. Kind of tell me about that. What was your thought process when you first got there and you found out there wasn't any other people like you, that, or at least not as many as you thought?
Right. So, like I said, whenever I first came to UTA, I was just overwhelmed by how many religious groups there were. And obviously, I didn't identify with that. And I wondered, where is the group for atheists? You know, that's something I'd be interested in joining. By the time, this semester rolled around, I was just seeing more and more of these religious posters and, the advertisement for these groups and the things that they're doing. And I just thought, okay, I'm ready to do this. I'm ready to create a group for secular people and for atheists to have a place to come together. And
So you were just like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And like, I mean, was anybody stopping you? Was there like, was there hurdles you had to go through? What was that process like?
Well, I actually heard a couple of other students talking about one professor who was really being adamant about the separation of church and state and the separation of, theology and science and classroom. And they were kind of voicing, well, I'm a Christian, so I don't really agree with that. And I thought, oh, I should find this professor. They seem secular themselves. And so I did. And she was very supportive. And she said that we could, get some meetings together, or we can get some people together and then eventually start a group. And she was really helpful and encouraging. So I would say, I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And then I reached out to that professor, and she was, like I said, very supportive, and we kind of did it together.
And how many people are in your group now?
I would say about a dozen members, and then 4 officers.
Wow. So your group has only been around for what, 2 months or so, right?
And yeah, about 6 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. And you've already got a dozen members. I mean, that's really good, considering the nature of the group, right? How did you find so many people so fast?
Well, honestly, we just kind of hung up some flyers. We posted some flyers around campus for our meeting, and the first meeting that we had, we actually had so many people show up that the room we reserved was kind of a modest room. We didn't expect that many people, and it was very crammed. It was packed by the end of the meeting. So we realized that we were going to have to upgrade our space because we were having more people come than we anticipated. And honestly, the people that we've had come are amazing people, and we've gone out to eat and stuff after the meetings, and I can tell that we've already made some really lasting friendships because yeah, it's an awesome experience.
Wow. And there was a previous secular group that was there on campus, but it somehow just dissolved itself, right, before you came?
Right. The Free Thinkers of UTA, they were established in 2006. And, they did some really awesome projects. I've seen some of the stuff that they did, and they seemed like they were very active on campus at one point. And then most of the leadership just kind of graduated, and they didn't have any younger freshmen and sophomores pick up those leadership roles. And so there was nobody left around to plan and to get those things together. And actually, there have been a couple of people who have come up to me and said, oh, I was a member of the Free Thinkers before they stopped being a group. I just didn't want to become a leader and get everything together. I'm like, well, that's understandable. It is a task, and it is something you got to take on. But, I'm glad that we're doing it. I'm glad that we're able to come
And
together.
here you are just coming in, taking over, starting your own thing. Like, what was that like when people found out that there was this new group? Did you face any backlash? Was there people who were surprised or just didn't understand why a bunch of atheists would want to meet together?
I haven't seen anything. I'm not to say that if somebody hasn't seen our advertisement or stuff like that, that there isn't, maybe some bit of questioning going on, but nothing that I've heard. We did an interview with Shorthorn, and the woman that did the interview was super friendly. She said that she was a part of SSA when she was in high school, so she was very objective, I think, in the interview. And we've had somebody come from UTA Radio, and she came to our second meeting, and she said she was really interested in what we were doing and that she was really supportive, and she wanted to see something like that on campus. And so she broadcasted us on UTA Radio. And so honestly, it's been nothing but positive and support from the community.
Right. That article is in the description, by the way. I think it's really fantastic. And you're right. It seems to be in a pretty positive light, and which, considering the area that you're at, I find to be pretty surprising. But you kind of mentioned that one of the writers of the article was actually a former member of the Secular Student Alliance. So that probably helped you out a bit, huh?
I think so too. Yeah, I was really delighted when she said that, because I was honestly a bit iffy on how she was going to think. If she has a background in religion, maybe she doesn't know that many atheists, so she's coming into this interview, maybe with some different ideas of herself. But that wasn't the case at all. So I was really glad.
So what are the kinds of activities that you guys have been doing? Have you, I know it hasn't been that long, but have you done anything yet? Like any big events, or have you, like, what's a meeting look like so far?
So far, the meetings have been really business related. Since we were, like you said, kind of resurrecting the group, we had some things we had to vote on. We had some things we had to sign. I really kind of wanted to lay out like the purpose of the group, because we've had some members come that say, I'm interested in this group, I'm interested in the cause, but I don't know what it's going to be like, and I don't know what the vibe is going to be. So they're just kind of testing the waters. So I really wanted to just create a sense of like, okay, this is what we're here for. This is, what our purpose is and what our goals are. So the meetings so far have just been really discussion based, and we're just getting to know each other. And then in the fall, we're really planning on to do more fundraisers and bring speakers into the campus and get more education for the campus itself as to what atheists are and to what we believe and what we look like.
Mm-hmm. And I hate to be that guy who kind of plugs his own thing, but you did say you were interested in street epistemology, right?
Oh, yeah,
or doing something like that with your group.
Yeah, and I've actually been trying to direct my group to look that up on the internet and to get more interested in that and get at least more knowledgeable about it. But it's definitely something that I personally am interested in. I've told you before that I don't necessarily know how successful we'll be on campus, because the members of campus know who we are, they know what we look like, they know we're the atheists on campus, so they might not really come into the conversation with an open mind like that. But it's definitely something that I am interested in.
Mm. Yeah, well, one of the great advantages of street epistemology, I think, is just the ability to put on a kind face and say, look, we're just kind of having this nice conversation. So maybe they'll change their minds once they actually get to talk to you guys and not just, judge you from a distance.
It's worth a try at least once, for sure. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So you're a skeptic group on campus, and you just got started. It sounds like it's been a pretty good ride so far. What do you hope for the goals for this group to be in the future?
So I think our two biggest goals would be, number one, to create a sense of community for atheists to be able to come together and happily say, I'm an atheist, and talk about the things that we believe and the things that, we find valuable. And then number two, to also help change what the members of campus think, the students of UTA think of atheists, and, what they might associate with an atheist, these ideas that they have and things like that.
So yeah, we've been talking a lot lately in the YouTube atheist sphere about community, this idea of, trying to bring people together rather than tear us apart. Sometimes we're kind of known for being a deconstructionist movement, right? And not necessarily one that kind of builds.
Right, like herding cats, yeah.
Right. And so what thoughts do you have on this idea of building an atheist community? I mean, what do you think that should look like? Because obviously the only thing that we agree on the surface is just, a lack of belief in God. So, that can, everything else is, out on the table, right? I mean, so like, how do we build a group off of that?
Well, you're right. You're right. We are a deconstructionist movement. Like I said, it's the herding cats analogy that we always go to. And you're also right that the only thing that we really agree on is our lack of belief in a deity. We don't have a consensus on political values or anything like that. So I think building a group is really important. It's important, like you said, to change the face of atheism, to get the things that we want accomplished done. And to build a group, we really need to come together and agree on those values and agree that those are the things that we need to stand for. Separation of church and state, scientific inquiry, separation of church and education, like theology and creationism being taught in high school, like I experienced. These are all things that we all agree on and we all know are not right, are not constitutional, and that they go against what we believe in. And so I think to build a group, we need to focus on those values that we as secular atheists, whatever you identify as, we all believe in those strongly. And so to build a group, we need to come together on those values and put everything else aside. Like you said, everything else is kind of out in the open and we can't really agree on anything else.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, even in my own group here where I'm at, it's hard to sometimes agree on kind of how we should run these meetings or what these meetings should look like or what we should be doing as an organization. It's kind of open-ended sometimes. And I think like for the majority of us, this is new territory. We've never really been in these kinds of groups before. We don't know what it looks like. And most of human history hasn't had atheist groups like this. So it's still kind of a learning curve, but it seems like it's working out pretty good for you guys so far.
Yeah, we're really lucky. We've had nothing but success and encouragement and support. We haven't seen any major obstacles yet so far.
Yeah, so. No drama in the groups yet. Yeah, that's good. That's awesome. So when we're trying to think about other ways that we can build communities, because obviously not everybody is living on a college campus, right? But there are other ways to do it. I mean, was there was there any other thoughts you had about what kind of activism you personally want to see done, or is it just for college students? Like, do you think that your group is able to do, like, what am I trying to say here? I'm trying to say, like, you know, do you strictly want to be
like community-wide activism?
Yeah, do you want it to be just a hangout for people, or do you want it to be something else? Do you want to be protesting somewhere? Do you want to be standing up for some sort of human rights issues? I mean, what do you think about that?
Right. Well, that's what the group is all about, is the separation of church and state, the scientific inquiry, scientific literacy. So we are going to stand up for those things when and how we can. Basically, the number one thing we can do is to make people aware on campus that these are issues of importance and that they need to be taken seriously. I think that is a great contribution we can make to those causes. But yeah, I mean, I went to the March for Science the past 2 years. I encourage members of the group to go. I'm sure we'll try and go as a group collectively next year once we're a little bit more organized. I mean, yeah, everything that you can do to really go out there and, you know, make a difference for those causes, I think is important. And then, as you said, community-wide, not just in your school. There's also, you know, atheist groups that you can find on campus, and they'll have meetups, and they do things like that, protest, and it's really important to try and join those and get involved in those.
It's really, really awesome that you guys are doing that. And so I told Charlie at the beginning of this interview, before we kind of got on live here, was if any of you guys out there are watching this and you want to show support to this group, if you have ideas or resources that you want to be able to share and get plugged in for, definitely send me a message, DM me on Twitter or just on YouTube, and we definitely want to hook you up. We, a lot of us, you know, in the YouTube atheist community really like how these new groups are forming, and I especially like the kind of younger faces that we're kind of seeing in this movement. I've always noticed, even in the few atheist conferences that I've gone to, I've usually been one of the youngest people there, and that really shocks me. It seems like there should be more of us, you know, kind of on the forefront. When I thought of atheists, right, I always thought of these kind of young rebellious types, but they've been pretty old from what I've seen, right?
Right. Yeah. Most of the atheists in the community that we have, you know, meetups that we've gone to, they all have been, you know, elderly people, but you know, they're just as nice and they're just as intelligent on the subjects. But it would be nice to connect with people who are younger in our age and have a little bit more life experience similar to ours. Oh
yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just great that you guys are able to have enough people to even start a group like that in your area. Do you plan on doing meetups with other kinds of groups at other campuses, or is that not even on the radar yet?
Well, it's not necessarily in the books yet, but it's definitely something that we want to do. I know that UNT has an SSA chapter, a CFI chapter. I'm not sure which one that they're affiliated with, but they do have a free thinking chapter. And so they're one campus that we could connect with. And then, yeah, other community-led atheist groups are definitely talking about doing collaborations, just meetups or other events that we could do together.
Yeah, I'm looking at the chat here, and some people are commenting on, I can't remember if you said it or I said it, elderly people. So they don't like that term, apparently. So we're just kind of these, you know, these hot-headed young kids coming in and just wrecking stuff. I just think it's very funny, the kind of reactions sometimes people have when we kind of talk about this. Also, if you're in the chats and you want to ask Charlie a question, we'll be doing a Q&A from the chats pretty soon, probably in the next 10-15 minutes or so. So go ahead and type your questions in there. Yeah, it's hard to find people your age that feel the same way. I mean, it's hard to find other people in real life that think the way we do enough. You know, it's another thing to find people who are at kind of the same pace in life and stuff. And that can be really stressful, especially if you come from a background like, you know, like Wichita Falls, where it's like even the people your age don't think or are doing the same things you are necessarily. So yeah, it's just really wonderful that the people at UT Arlington can just come to this group now. So thanks for doing
when I was in high school, I would try to have conversations about this with people my age. Not necessarily that I was an atheist yet, but I was just trying to gauge other people's ideas of religion, things like that, the supernatural, what's our purpose, what are we here for, things like that. And a lot of people, they just didn't really necessarily want to talk about it, or, they didn't want to have their beliefs questioned. They didn't want to have those kinds of talks, and they were kind of shut off. Even the people my age specifically, they had been told something and they wanted to believe that was true. They didn't want to, they didn't really want to open the book to something else being true.
Yeah, that was pretty similar to my experience as well. Like when I first kind of started the deconversion process, I just found everything I was reading so fascinating, but I didn't feel like the conversations that I wanted to have with people were conversations that they necessarily wanted to have back with me. It always were kind of these taboo topics and stuff. And I was just like, why? Like, if these things are true and you really believe them to be true, then we should be able to, defend them and talk about them openly. It shouldn't be something we should be ashamed of talking about.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Yeah, it's definitely been a taboo subject. When you try and bring it up, people will stray away from it. But yeah, I agree. I'm not sure who says it. I want to say Richard Dawkins, but I'm not sure that says that people deserve respect, but ideas don't automatically deserve respect. So I think that's a really good way to look at it.
What are you studying at UTA, by the way?
Studying physics.
Physics. Nice, nice, nice. Very, very cool. Okay, well, I'm going to open up the chat here and see if anybody has any questions that they want to ask you. Let's see. So what kind of, okay. Were there any free thinkers in your family? Did you grow up around religious people in your family, or were they kind of the same way you are?
That's a really good question. So my grandparents on my dad's side, they believe, they don't go to church very regularly, but my grandma would take me every now and then. And then my grandparents on my mom's side also believe. They aren't super regular religious church-going people, but they do believe, and they have the crosses, and they pray at Thanksgiving or something. And my parents actually, my mom really despised the church. She found that the people there were hypocritical and judgmental, and she had bad experiences there when she was younger, so she never really wanted to take me there. She never wanted to go herself. And so I guess it was kind of easy for me to come into atheism since I didn't have a huge religious background, but there definitely was no atheist in my family. I think the closest thing that I could consider a free thinker in my family would be whenever I was coming into atheism, I asked my dad if he believed in God, and he told me sometimes. And so I thought that was pretty close to atheism.
Yeah, yeah. So that's interesting. Do they know that you're an atheist now?
Oh, yeah.
Are you open about it? Okay. And it's the same way with your friends and everybody that you know? It's just not a big deal?
Well, I have moved away from a lot of my friends, so a lot of them I've kind of just lost contact with in general. But the ones who are really my friends, it doesn't really matter. The ones that I've always been friends with, we keep in contact, we hang out. It doesn't make any kind of difference. They are a little bit free thinking themselves. They admit that they are down with evolution and things like that, but they have family and religious background that they're not just going to give up on a whim. And I'm cool with that. I respect that 100%.
Is freethinker the term you prefer to use to kind of describe your worldview? What's the terminology you like?
So I identify as an atheist. I just don't believe in a God. I understand why people would be agnostic, but I believe it is improbable enough that I can go ahead and say that it's not the case. So I understand why some people don't want to immediately take on that term or that phrase atheism, and so I understand that some people would rather be termed free thinkers or agnostic. And so that's why if I'm describing someone else, I might just say, free thinking or, something like that.
Here's a good one. Would you ever marry a Christian? That's always a fun one to ask.
I mean, to be honest, that's not necessarily, I think, something that would be the make or break. I feel like I would never be in a romantic relationship with someone who's a Christian in the first place, just because we have very conflicting viewpoints. Atheism is something that I think about a lot, and it's something that I talk about a lot. A lot of the problems that atheists face, a lot of the movements and the things that are going on in the religious movement and the ways that it affects our society, that's something that I talk about a lot and something that me and my boyfriend talk about a lot. So I think that in like a romantic partner, that's not necessarily like we would never really vibe in that way to begin with.
Yeah, yeah. Let's go back a little bit to the kind of group that you're building here. Any specific projects that you have in mind that you want to do like on campus that you feel are like really pressing, or have you not really thought about any big stuff yet.
Yeah, I've had some ideas, but they're kind of small stuff. The biggest stuff that we really have ideas for would be getting a speaker on campus and getting people to come in on campus and do talks. We want to do Ask an Atheist Day, obviously, where you set up a booth and have people just come up and, you know, I'm an atheist, ask me anything. And then some fundraising ideas. I like the idea that I saw in the SSA leadership guide where they have different jars, and each jar will have a different religious denomination on the front, maybe Baptist or Catholic or Methodist or, you know, whatever. And the students can come by and drop $1 in each jar. And then at the end of the day, the jar that has the most money, say that the Catholic jar has the most money, then all of the atheists have to attend a religious ceremony for Catholics, like a Sunday service for Catholics or something like that.
Wow.
And you can take all the money donated to, like, you know, a fundraiser or a charity or, you know, what have you.
I'm surprised I haven't heard of that one before. I kind of like that.
Yeah, I really want to do that in the fall.
Yeah, that's really neat. So you also, whenever you started up the group, you kind of restructured things a bit, right? You kind of did a new system. Can you tell me about that a little bit, or is that too boring and bureaucratic?
No, I mean, we just kind of added a little bit of language in the Constitution for to make sure that if you are an officer and you're graduating, that you will go and seek someone out to kind of take your spot. You know, just kind of reach out to somebody that comes to the meetings that is active and just let them know, like, hey, we would really like you to take on the leadership role. Whenever we go, we think that you'd be a great fit. We think that, you know, you would really carry on the group well, just to make sure that the group doesn't die out again. Because I've learned that that's something that's common with other SSA chapters. The leadership will graduate and people won't really pick back up.
Yeah, that can happen. Okay, so let's talk about people who like want to start their own groups, right? Or are interested in doing what you're doing. What would you tell them? What advice would you give them? Where should they start?
The best place to start is on the SSA website or the CFI website, so the Secular Student Alliance. I'm not really sure the exact website. You might know it better than I do. I don't know if it's ssa.org, or you can just Google Secular Student Alliance and then right to the website. And so that's the best place to start. They're very, very helpful, very encouraging. They'll get somebody to reach out to you and help you throughout the process. And the same thing with CFI, the Center for Inquiry. Just look up, you know, Center for Inquiry on Google, and they do the same thing. They'll send you lots of supplies. They'll help you in any way they can, and that's definitely the best place to start. And then, you know, the literature that you've probably read, being an atheist, you know, Richard Dawkins and, you know, what have you, that's going to help you in creating discussions like that for your meeting and for finding people and things like that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the Center for Inquiry stuff is really neat. They'll send you little magazines and things, and without cost, right? As long as you're part of the organization, they kind of send you that for free.
Yeah, I think the magazines, they kind of just send you a few like free samples. That way, if you want to, you can subscribe to their magazines. But as far as the tabling supplies, like brochures, pens, stickers, I mean, just little like swag stuff, they'll send you all that for free all day. If you're a registered organization, I should say. If you're a registered organization with CFI, they'll send you all kinds of stuff. Yeah,
that's super neat. So if you're wanting to start a new group or organization, consider those ideas, especially if you're at a college campus. So do you have any...
We're a high school campus. We're a high school.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They do high school campuses. I almost forgot.
Yeah.
So do you have any personal projects that you want to work on? As you're telling me the other day that you're excited to becoming like this atheist activist, is the words that you used. Besides the campus organizations, are you involved with anything else in your personal life, or what else have you been doing for the movement?
So I haven't been doing any projects, I guess, like you would say, just kind of been creating more connections, like, you know, I haven't been to the Faithless Forum, but I met a lot of the people that were there this past weekend, and then just other atheist groups within the community. You know, we've gone to a few meetups with them, and I'm a part of some groups on Facebook, just making some connections and, you know, introducing myself and just trying to figure out what can be done and, you know, who needs help in, you know, what area doing what, things like that.
Neat. Awesome. So let's pretend that somebody comes up to you on campus and they're a Christian and they ask you, Charlie, what would it take to convince you to be a Christian? Because I'm sure that's going to happen at least once or twice while you're there, right?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
So what would be your answer to that?
Right. So the best thing that I could say would be just give me some solid proof. Like I said, I have a really deep appreciation and passion for science. So if it's something that we can test in a lab and we can say verifiably, yes, this is so because X, Y, and Z on this chart, you know, actual data, I would gladly take that. But I'm not gonna, take scripture or faith or your personal experience as some kind of, truth. And that's not to be disrespectful, but that's truly what would make me believe in something as supernatural. Like, again, I don't know who says it, but extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And I can't tell you exactly who said that, but like I said,
that was Hitchens.
Hitchens, yes.
Or it might have been Sagan. I can't remember. Yeah, no.
One of the greats. Yeah.
One of the big ones. Yeah. So that's just really, really awesome. Well, I'm just so excited to hear about the stuff that you're doing over there. I hope other people who are watching this are also inspired as well to kind of see that really anybody can do this. It's really not that hard to kind of start something in your own community, and there's lots of people out there that are willing to help you. And it sounds like you're having a lot of success so far, and I hope that you continue to find success with what you're doing.
Thanks very much. Yeah, we have had a lot of success. We've had a lot of support and encouragement from the community and from faculty and everything. So it's been a really awesome experience so far. We're excited to keep the mojo going into the fall and to do more big stuff in the fall. Yeah.
So if you could give some sort of final advice, final words of wisdom for somebody who's interested in starting a community, but maybe they feel like they don't have the skills, maybe they don't feel like they have the leadership ability, or they're not very open to talking to people. I mean, what would you say to someone who has a heart for it can't really commit to it?
Right. Yeah. So like you said earlier, there's for a lot of human history, there hasn't been atheist groups. So if it's something that you identify with and that you think very strongly about atheism, then I think it's something considering starting a community for, or joining a community for. And so if you don't have that and you're considering starting it, my best advice would be to, number one, find some allies, find some friends, maybe people older than you that can help you, or maybe just people that, are going to be allies in the process. Look for science teachers, science professors. I think those are going to be philosophy teachers, philosophy professors, people who are likely to have this kind of worldview that are going to be able to support you and help you. And then, like we said, SSA and CFI are really helpful, and they're really there to provide that backbone support for student organizations.
Awesome. Well, Charlee, if somebody wants to join the UTA group, where can they find you?
Right. So we're on Facebook as the Free Thinkers of UTA. That was our previous name before the group kind of dissolved. So we're still on Facebook as the Free Thinkers of UTA. You can just find us, like our page, and we post pretty often about the things that we're doing.
Nice, nice, nice. And like I said before, if you guys want to message Charlee, for whatever reason, maybe you have some opportunities to offer her, or you just want to say congratulations and thanks for doing what you're doing, go ahead and message me first and I'll get it back to her. So Charlee, and don't include me in this, but who are your favorite atheist YouTubers right now?
To be honest, I'm not on YouTube as much, but I am really into Seth Andrews, the Thinking Atheist. I've been a big fan of his since I lived in Wichita Falls. He was probably one of the first atheist media outlets I really started getting into. And I am a fan of Anthony Magnabosco. I do really enjoy his talks. I think they're very meaningful, and I think they are very impactful. Yeah, I think the Thinking Atheist and the Anthony Magnabosco are the two ones that I'm watching the most right now.
That's awesome. That is so cool. Well, I think that's all the questions I have for you today. Did you have anything you wanted to say to the audience right now about what you're doing and just, I don't know, words of wisdom?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, just if you're interested, I would say find a science teacher, a science professor. They're likely to agree with you and help you. And I'm just really excited to be, like I said, making the connections and getting started with growing the group and opening up more opportunities for the group.
Well, I'm excited for what you're doing too, and I'd love to help you out any way that I can. Thanks again for being on the channel. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. I'm just glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Cool. All right. So I think that's going to be wrapping up for us now. Thank you guys for watching. If you like what you see here, please tell me. If you want me to keep doing these kinds of interviews with other people, I'd love to keep doing more. And if you know somebody who you think should be featured and should be talking about what they're doing on my channel, definitely hit me up. I plan on doing some more scripted content later on. I just got finished with my last final for the semester this morning, and I am tired and I'm beat, and I'm probably going to go take a nap after this. But I am interested in doing more stuff like this. I am also officially going to be a speaker for the SSA conference this June in Ohio. I am really, really, really excited about that. going to start talking about street epistemology and what we can do for college campuses specifically. And it's going to be my first real workshop at a conference, so I'm very nervous, but I'm very excited as well. So I'm looking forward to telling you guys more about that. Until next time, thanks again, and have a great day, guys. And
Bye.
thank you, Charlie. See ya.